Hi, and welcome to the crash course on Shavuot, the holiday in which we celebrate the most profound moment in all of Jewish history and an event which is unparalleled in the annals of human history. Because on Shavuot, God, the creator of the universe, spoke directly to the Jewish people en masse and gave over the Ten Commandments. On that day, the Jewish people's relationship with God completely changed. The Jewish people entered a covenant with God, sight unseen, and accepted the responsibility to be God's holy nation, to be a kingdom of priests living according to the precepts outlined in the Torah. God committed to grant the Jewish people special protection, to bear us on eagle's wings, and to make us his eternal nation. Moses was finally confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt that he was God's chosen prophet because the Jewish people themselves experienced the gift of prophecy. And our bond with God was eternally forged through the giving of the Torah, which has become the centerpiece and foundation of our nationhood. It's helpful to understand Shavuot in context of the other two festivals in the Jewish calendar, Passover and Sukkot. Passover is likened to God's courtship of the Jewish people, where we got to see firsthand everything he was prepared to do for us, from the exodus from Egypt to the splitting of the sea. Shavuot is likened to the wedding day, with God, so to speak, standing there at the chuppah at Mount Sinai, waiting for the bride of Israel to enter. And it's there that the oaths were made. In fact, Shavuot literally means oaths. It also means weeks, because it's the culmination of the 7-week Omer period, which began from the second day of Passover. Sukkot is likened to the marriage of the Jewish people and building a home. And we move into temporary dwellings where we celebrate how God protected us through our 40-year sojourn in the desert. Perhaps that's why Shavuot is different from Passover and Sukkot, which have specific commandments for us to focus on. Passover has matzah, the bitter herbs, the seder, and the Passover offering. And Sukkot has the sukkah booth that we dwell in and the 4 species. But Shavuot has no unique mitzvah. And perhaps the reason is because it represents the totality of a relationship to God. In fact, you can see that reflected in the 10 Commandments. The first 5 commandments focus on our relationship with God. Know there's a God and live with the reality of his presence. Don't believe in any other source of power. Don't say God's name in vain. Keep the Sabbath day. And honor your father and mother who are partners with God in your creation. Our relationship with God has to be total in thought, speech, and action. The second set of 5 focus on our relationship to our fellow man. Don't murder. Don't commit adultery. Don't kidnap. Don't bear false testimony, and don't covet and want other people's possessions. There, our commitment to our fellow man has to be not only in action, but also reflected in speech and in thought. Although the holiday of Shavuot does not have a unique mitzvah of its own, it does have the standard commandments of a festival to cease from work and enjoy festive meals. We also have some very special customs which we observe. It's customary to have a dairy meal. When the Torah was given, the dietary laws mandated the separation of meat from milk. And therefore we have 2 meals, one with meat and one with milk. Also, the numerical value of the Hebrew word for milk, chalav, is 40, representing the 40 days Moses was on Mount Sinai receiving the Torah. And just like milk has the power to fully sustain the body, like that of a baby, so too the Torah has the power to fully sustain and nourish our souls. We also decorate our synagogues with green and flowers because Mount Sinai bloomed when the Torah was given. Many people have the custom to stay up all night studying the Torah because we want to demonstrate that the Torah is timeless. We study it day and night. Also, tradition teaches that the night before the giving of the Torah, the Jewish people went to sleep and we needed to be woken up, which isn't what you'd expect on such an exciting day. And therefore, to rectify that initial blunder, we stay up all night in anticipation of receiving the Torah this year. And finally, we read the book of Ruth, the story of a princess from the land of Moab who marries into a prominent Jewish family that fled the land of Israel because of a famine. When Ruth's mother-in-law Naomi suffers the loss of her husband and her 2 sons, one of them being Ruth's husband, she decides to return to the land of Israel and tries to convince Ruth to remain behind in the land of Moab. But Ruth insists on returning with her mother-in-law despite tremendous hardship and poverty. She becomes the ideal convert with her famous declaration, "Your people are my people, and your God is my God." When Ruth arrives in the land of Israel, she ends up having a child from one of Naomi's relatives, a man named Boaz, and she ends up becoming the great-grandmother of none other than King David. And Shavuot happens to be the anniversary of the passing of King David. Her life underscores the fact that anybody who's committed to being part of the Jewish people is welcome, and that they can end up making an invaluable contribution to the destiny of the Jewish people. Before we conclude the crash course, let's focus on the one key ingredient that was responsible for helping us achieve this incredible milestone of becoming God's people: Jewish unity. Tradition teaches that the Jewish people stood at the foot of Mount Sinai as one man with one heart. Jewish unity took us to our greatest heights, and it became the most powerful moralizing force in the history of all mankind. So this Shavuot, let's see beyond our differences and help each other live up to our full potential. Let's learn more Torah, let's do more mitzvot, and truly be a light unto the nations. Chag Sameach.